I am a doctor, and yet I prescribe supplements every single day. I take supplements every single day. I found them to be absolutely paramount to maximizing health and performance in today's world, especially if you want to achieve a high-performance life. It's not that all supplements are created equal. Some are indeed expensive urine. Others are so specific, so niche, that have such a interesting impact, but for a very small application. But some, I believe that everyone should be taking probably those 5. And that's what I want to share with you. What are the 5 supplements I would give to all founders when they want to maximize their health and performance based on what I've been doing over the past decade working with high-performance individuals. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Miguel Damas. I'm a doctor based in Portugal. I'm the founder of Prime Human Performance, and I've been helping founders, executives, and high-performance individuals for more than a decade to make sure that they can optimize their health and performance so that they can achieve their goals without burning out. And I use all the science that can have that impact. And yes, part of it are supplements. So that's what I want to share with you, not the whole list. I've been prescribing roughly 100 different active principles in some way, shape, or form over all the phases of the work that I do. But these 5 are just critical, just the staple. I think it should be on every person's arsenal of strategies to maximize health. And those are the ones that I will be diving today. Before we go any further, especially in this topic, this is only for educational purpose, so please do not see it as prescription. Do not change anything about your treatments without consulting your doctor. It's just for you to know what would be the 5 supplements I would give to all founders. But before telling you which ones, it's important to recognize why we need supplements. It's important to discuss it because I think there's quite a lot of misconception about why we need it. And from the way I see it, there are just 2 main reasons to take supplements. One is that nutrition is not enough. We often see people arguing that if our grandfathers used to eat like this, why can't we eat the same way? Why do we need to change? What is thing about all the needs to optimize everything about nutrition and just eating not being enough? It's a fair argument, but in fact, the food has changed. Over the last 50 to 70 years, the nutritional value of the food that we eat have changed. Look into these reports published in 2004, looking into the changes between 1950 and 1999 on the concentration of minerals and nutritional value of food published by the USDA. They found that there was a fundamental shift in the quality of the food, with a 6% reduction in protein content, a 30+% reduction in some B vitamins, and it just basically goes to show that even if we would be eating and living the same way that our grandparents would do, we would not be getting the same level of nutrition. So the supplements will work to offset, at very least, to offset that negative trend, if you want. But that is just one part of the question. The second, on the same topic, is what will happen going forward. In 2014, there was this article or this opinion published saying that with increased levels of CO2 that we are having, it will lead to a net reduction of availability of minerals in the food and plants that we have. So not only that the trend of losing nutrition or nutritional value in food has been going on for decades now. Looking forward, things don't look that will change that much. So bottom line, the nutritional value of the food that we have available will likely keep on going down. So unless we take something else to make sure that we can overcome that negative, we are just eating the same but getting less real nutrition. So that's one side of question. The second argument that I make for the need of supplements is basically because, simply put, the more you push, the more you need to refuel. It's not that everyone will benefit from supplements, because not everyone wants to have the best possible performance or need to have that best possible performance that is always on the edge or on the front line of what it needs to get done. So therefore the system is always maxing out. If you want to have a perfectly normal life, I mean, that's fine. You may not need supplements. But when you push, when you are just pushing as much as you can, you will need to get more tools, more raw materials, more things into your system. Just take an example of an F1 car. I love Formula One. I find it to be fascinating. But if you take an example of the F1 car, millions invested in the best possible design and aerodynamics and weight cutting and everything just to gain a few fractions of a second. Do you think that they would go into all that effort and not making sure that the fuel that they put in the car has more or adds more than just regular fuel? First, to start with, they consume much more fuel. A regular car will need 5, 6, 7 liters of gasoline to make 100 kilometers. A Formula One car will probably do 33 liters per 100K at least. So they obviously need much more fuel to boost and to fuel that performance. The fuel itself, it's much more, let's call it concentrated. They will have much more material to create more energy, to create more power. And that example applies very well to supplements and to a founder and to a high performance individual. If you want your own Ferrari, your system, your brain, your ideas, your mission, if you want to fuel that, you just need to pack as much as you can on everything that your body will have, or everything that your brain will have in terms of energy, in terms of hormones, in terms of minerals, in terms of vitamins, in terms of neurotransmitters, in terms of balance, to just make for the effort that you're putting, the load that you're creating, and also your ability to recover from it so that you can keep on going. So with these two big arguments, one, nutrition is not enough. Two, if you want to push, you need more fuel. Those are the basic arguments that make me say that you do need to take supplements if you want to max out your performance. If you don't, that's fine. Supplements work really, really well, but they are not a miracle strategy. Yes, with proper supplements, proper quality, proper dosages, you will feel a change, usually in a couple of weeks. But if you only rely on supplements to add to your performance, I will say that you are pretty doomed, because it will be just a short-term fix for longer-term problem. The supplements will work on top of the more fundamental strategies, which is getting sure that your diet is as good as it can be and as packed with energy, information, raw materials that you need to keep on going, that you are working out the right amount to your activity, to your goals, that you are maximizing your efficiency in your sleeping, that you are managing your stress and your load the best way possible, that you are not feeling alone. That's pretty much all that we cover with the work that we do with our programs to our founders. And if you want to get more information and apply for it, just go to premiumperformance.com/founders-program, and you'll find all the information that you need to do it. Yes, supplements will always be suggested, and the range will be always big and personalized to the information that we find and the data that we get. But it's on top, on the most fundamental, often not fancy stuff. Keep in mind that supplements that made the list fill these two criteria. One, they should be beneficial for most people. Second, they need to either improve performance or reduce the load and the damage in our system. Those are basically the two arguments for taking these supplements. Now, with that out of the way, what are the supplements I would suggest every founder consider adding to their routines? First on the list is vitamin D. Vitamin D, to start with, is not even a vitamin. It's actually a hormone and behaves in our system just like any hormone will do, such as testosterone, estrogen. And the impact that vitamin D has in our body is massive. To start with, all our cells will have a receptor for vitamin D. So you can all already understand that the impact is broad. The second thing is that vitamin D works by optimizing genetic transcription. That's the fundamental impact that it has. We need vitamin D to open up the code so that the machinery can read and put the code that we have in our DNA into practice. If we don't have enough vitamin D working, the reading of our code will be compromised, and therefore the function of the cells and then the function of the systems will be compromised. Which are the systems that suffer more the influence of vitamin D? Well, it will be brain, the immune system, and bones and muscles. And within the three are the most critical parts of our health, keeping our brain sharp, making sure that we don't fall sick and fight off threats, and we don't break down. That's why I think vitamin D is so critical. And if you don't want to take anything else, just take vitamin D. The problem is that most people are deficient in vitamin D. In the Middle East, super sunny area, right? The level of deficiency is higher than 80%. Portugal, more than 60% of people have low levels of vitamin D. So by default, everyone, or there's a very high chance that if you're not testing, you will have a deficient level, let alone the ideal level. Ideal level of vitamin D that I aim with all my people is around 80 nanograms per milliliter. And that seems to be the best starting point before we start adjusting according to genetics. But the impact it has in terms of mood stability, in terms of focus, in terms of energy is so incredible that it has been shown that low levels of vitamin D is associated with low levels of or lower levels of productivity and higher levels of presenteeism, which basically means people working and not working. So that is just the one to start with. Take enough vitamin D to optimize for 80 nanograms per milliliter in your blood and go from there. For all adults, between 5 and 10,000 units should be safe. I've been prescribing this dosage for a long time, and only once I found someone that went a little bit over the limit with 10,000 units of vitamin D. But again, take it in consideration and aim for 80 nanograms per milliliter. The second one is omega-3. And the reason I put omega-3 in the list is basically because of the two functions that it has in our body, two main functions. One, they improve the structure of our brain. Second, it reduces the inflammation in our system. So it accounts for both reducing the load and increasing recovery. You have to consider that 70% of our brain is fat. It's based in cholesterol, and then a substantial part of it will be influenced by DHA, one of the two main molecules of omega-3. That DHA is the one that people take to improve the brain structure, when EPA is the one that will lead to an anti-inflammation part. When you combine both, the improvement in the structural quality of our brain and reduction in inflammation, you'll have significant effects in inflammation control, in stress and cortisol axis balance, in improved mood stability, impulsive control. All these have been studied, but I want to show you one specific study. It was a big study published in 2025, a meta-analysis of 28 RCTs that showed that taking omega-3 reduced aggressive impulse by 22%. Not changing anything else. Your aggressive impulse would reduce 22%. And when you think about being on the edge, being always faced with critical decisions, always trying to find the best way forward, a reduction in more than 20% in the impulse of or in following negative emotions or not thinking clearly that leads to aggression can have a massive impact. Omega-3 makes the list because it will improve your brain, improve your inflammation, improve your stress reactions, improve your decision making. So how should you choose omega-3? First, you need to make sure it's good quality. And for the lack of a better certification, you can look for IFOS, International Fish Oil Standards, as some sort of guidance to the quality of the product. Second is the amount and ratio of EPA to DHA. It should be 2:1 and a minimum of 500 milligrams of EPA and 150 milligrams of DHA. If you do it, take that per day and you should be fine. Just be mindful that it can change the coagulation of the blood. So if you're on any anticoagulation drug, just consult with your doctor before taking it. The third is a broader category, is a good quality multivitamin. And I'll need to define what good quality is, but why do we need a multivitamin, especially one with B9 and B12 or folic acid and cobalamin? To start, they are paramount to a process that's called methylation. You can just imagine methylation as a switch that we use to turn on or off things, enzymes, receptors, processes. And in those processes that we use methylation are the production of neurotransmitters, just like dopamine, are detox in our liver of things that we eat or produce that we want to get rid of, our genetical transcription, are a lot of different areas. So that we need to have proper dosages and proper effect on methylation and proper balance in methylation to max out focus, attention, and decision making and brain performance. What are the ideal values of B9 and B12 that we should aim for in the blood? So for folic acid, I want all my people to have over 15, and for B12, over 800. Those are the starting points. But then we need to take into consideration one simple fact. A lot of people have genetical changes in the machinery that uses B12 and B9 vitamins to put in the process and to fulfill, let's say, the methylation pathway. One of the genes, which is best known probably, and has this sweet name people have given the motherfucking gene, which is the MTHFR. Most people will have a genetic polymorphism that makes this enzyme less efficient. So even having ideal levels of B9 and B12, it may not be enough to lead to the best possible scenario. One way to overcome it, and that's always the rule that I use to see if a multivitamin has good quality or not, is if it has the methylated versions of vitamin B12 and B9. So if it has methylcobalamin instead of cyanocobalamin, or it has methylfolate instead of folic acid, because these two will be much more available and will be able to enter the system after the limiting factor of the MTHFR and be much more effective. But what does the science says about taking B vitamins? These are probably one of the categories of supplements that most doctors will say that will just cause expensive urine, maybe. But there's so much interesting science, and I have just 3 papers to share with you. The first one, this one published in 2010, so more than 15 years ago, showed that taking a high dosage B and C multivitamin led to less levels of perceived stress, higher levels of general health, and higher levels of mood stability. This is from 2010. Another study published in 2011 pointed to the utility of a cost-effective treatment for the mood and psychological strain effects of occupational stress. Particularly, they found that taking a multivitamin and a B supplement vitamin led to significant lower personal strain and reduction in confusion and depressed mood caused by work stress. And finally, in 2019, a meta-analysis was published. They combined the findings of 16 studies and concluded that B vitamins will lead to an improvement of stress symptoms. So as you can see, there's plenty of evidence supporting the usage of good quality multivitamin. And by high quality, I mean having a broad amount of vitamins, but specifically the B9 and B12 being in methylated form, and then having all the B vitamins, a bunch of different minerals that we all need. The fourth is magnesium. And magnesium is kind of an interesting one because it has the broadest impact while being such a humble one. Because magnesium is involved in more than 600 processes in all our physiology. It is one of the biggest limiting factors in a bunch of pathways that we have. You can see magnesium as the big calmer because it calms our body. You can think about cramps, also constipation. A lot of people with constipation will have much better bowel movements if we just go on magnesium. It also calms our brain, has been shown to improve significantly sleep, especially a specific form of magnesium called magnesium bisglycinate, but also in our mind. Magnesium reduces significantly anxiety and stress symptoms. And here specifically, the way it works is, I find it fascinating because it reduces the firing in our brain that will lead to the cascade of releasing ACTH, that will lead our adrenal glands to produce cortisol. So we have low levels of cortisol, therefore low levels of metabolic stress, even in high stress situations. So magnesium should be there for everyone to keep themselves calmer. Keep in mind, it will not make you dull. It will not make you numb. It will just make you calmer. The same way that it will not make you sleep, but it can relax you so much that you improve your sleep. How can you know that you have low levels of magnesium? Well, first you can measure not the regular blood marker, but one that we measure in our panels, which is the magnesium inside the red blood cell, because that is a much better indicator of how much magnesium you have in our system, not the one that's going around. The one we want to know exactly the one that is inside our cells. But even if you don't have access to that, you can be assured that you have low levels of magnesium. 80% of population worldwide will have low levels of magnesium, so you probably have it. And you should take as much magnesium until you get diarrhea, and then pull it back until your gut starts functioning again. Because the personal limit of magnesium is shown by diarrhea. So you get diarrhea, you pull it back, and then you're probably maxing out on your own tolerance of magnesium. And again, just consult with your doctor before doing this, but it's pretty safe. One topic that I'm always asked is then what is the best type of magnesium that you should take, which is very interesting because we can use magnesium to have added impact. But before telling you what are the ones that are more biological active. And let me tell you which one is less biological active. You should not be taking magnesium oxide. It's the cheapest, actually more frequent, more available, but it's the worst in terms of bioavailability and causes a lot of GI distress. So just avoid magnesium oxide. If you want to focus on what you should take, then there's pretty much three hypotheses: magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, and magnesium threonate. They have slightly different impacts in our body. Citrate is the one that may pick up your energy a little bit more, so you should take it in the morning. Magnesium glycinate will improve sleep better because the glycine amino acid has been shown by itself to improve sleep. And threonate seems to be the one that leads to higher levels of brain magnesium. So you can combine the three, you can pick one that will get you more impact that you are looking for. You can discuss it with your doctor based on these simple criteria. But again, avoid oxide and focus on citrate or glycinate or threonate. The last supplement on the list is creatine. And you've probably heard creatine associated with bodybuilding and sports because indeed it is one of the most studied and most used supplements in sports. But what it is fundamentally is a source of energy that our cells can use to perform. I want you to know that our brain, even though it only weighs 2% of our body weight, consumes 20% of our energy. The more energy we have, the better we will perform. It happens with the F1 car. It happens with our brain, with our F1 engine. The more energy it has available, the better it will perform. And given that it consumes 20% of energy in our system, we need to make sure that it has the best possible or the most level of energy. And creatine helps with it. Creatine by itself is a source of energy that our cells will use to function. Therefore, it should not be a surprise when I tell you that creatine has been shown to improve brain function, especially in stressful situations. And this, I will call it a landmark study. It was published in 2024 that showed that taking a high dosage of creatine was enough to improve brain function in a sleep-deprived status. It not only mitigated the negative impact of the sleep deprivation, but it actually improved it even further. The same team studied 2 years later on a lower dosage, which seemed to have the same effect but on a lower magnitude. But for me, it proves the point that creatine and the impact it has in energy production is, let's call it, guaranteed and should be available to everyone that want to perform and that are under stressful situations. So how much should you take? The rules that I follow is that at very least 3.5 grams per day, every single day, ideally 5 grams. So it depends on what is the product, depending on the dosage that it has, but roughly 5 grams per day will do it. If you are under sleep deprivation, you can boost it to 15 or up to 20 grams on that day. But obviously, I will tell you that it should not be the rule. It should not be in a sleep deprived state, and you should not be taking 15 to 20 grams of creatine per day. Not that it will mess you up, probably it won't. It will mess your thirst up, because when you take creatine, you feel a lot of thirsty. It will not mess you up, but the fundamental problem is that you are sleep deprived. But it can help with jet lag. It can help with overcoming a bad night of sleep because of kids or because you've been playing around with your AI agents and zoning out. And last time you checked was 2 a.m. and you need to wake up at 6. Those are circumstances that just going to these high dosages of creatine will help. The type of creatine is also important. I always suggest you take creatine monohydrate, especially Creapure, because Creapure is the patented version of creatine monohydrate. It seems to be more effective. It doesn't really matter the brand. As long as it's Creapure, it should be fine. But try to find the cleanest source. So it just be 100% creatine monohydrate, not creatine plus, flavor plus, this plus that. If you take these 5 supplements, you will be adding so much fuel, so much raw material, so much power to your system that the worst case scenario for the vast majority of people will be performing better at higher standards, at higher pace. Obviously, and again, please consult with your doctor. Do not change anything. Do not start taking these things just because you heard a doctor saying. But what I wanted to show is the impact that they can have, especially these 5 that I've been suggesting all people that I work with, and that I've seen the results. I take them myself, and I've been taking them for a while, and they are a critical component of a high-paced life when you want to achieve your prime performance. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.